is immutable. The money is
The genesis locked at the end of the mempool. We are decoding Bitcoin's signal in the noise. Privacy, self-custody, censorship resistance. Welcome to the revolution.
This is OnChain Revolution.
Welcome back to OnChain Revolution. My name is Yagobi, and I am the host of this channel and show. We're going to talk today about what it is going to take for Bitcoin to end this week in the green. I think that is a big objective for people that want Bitcoin to go to the upside, is to not have 5 weeks straight in the red. That would actually put Bitcoin back into this rare kind of situation that's only happened, I would say, a few times in the past 12 years, right? But I do want to welcome back my TikTok audience, of course, my lovely abstract audience, and my Zora audience as well. Let me make sure that that is up and running and connected there. All right, so we got to, all right, there we go. I just want to make sure I get the chats in that. And then also for X, as X has been doing some weird stuff with StreamYard. So I want to make sure that we have this up here. And I'm going to reshare this real quick. Give me 1 second, guys. We're about to get right into it. All right. Like always, drop your comments in the chat. If you are watching from YouTube and you're not subscribed, if you like my content, subscribe, hit the like. That definitely helps me out. Same thing on X. If you wouldn't mind hitting that like and giving me a follow at OnChain Rev and at Yagobiverse. Both of those, that would be very awesome if you guys could do that and help out. But we got a lot to go over today. As I mentioned, that main topic of the show for today is what Bitcoin must do to finish the week green, right? There's two things that I think Bitcoin has to do to finish out the week green, so we don't go into that downtrend that is very, very rare, that can get really nasty, right? And we're going to get into that. We're also going to, of course, hit on the market pulse. That's how we start the show pretty much off every show. We're also going to hit on consensus from Hong Kong. There is a consensus, if you will, that crypto might be finished. Not completely finished, of course, but in the sense that maybe us Web3 natives that have been in it since 2017, 2021, whenever you first came in, that it's a completely different type of industry now. We're going to dive into that. That's going to be very interesting. And I have people that were there on the ground that are kind of telling me that that's what the sentiment felt like. And then we're also going to hit on some topics with X and how they're going to play their role with digital payments and assets. Nikita Beir has been posting some stuff on X that kind of aligns with what the consensus, I guess, sentiment was there. We'll also hit on some of, I guess, these headlines that are showing that maybe TradFi is kind of pivoting a little bit in terms of the short term for Bitcoin, maybe looking more towards the hot narratives and really trying to dive deep into some of these alts that they're being very picky on. We'll hit into that. And then we'll also hit into my experience with Openclaw. I got into Openclaw. I messed with it quite a bit this weekend. I'm going to get back into it right after the show. It's highly addicting, but we'll get into that and kind of where you should start if you're interested in it, and some red flags maybe to be careful with. So that should be fun. But I won't dive too deep into that because we do have a weekly Wednesday AI segment where OnChain Revolution and Big Noodle, which specializes in AI, we do a segment that lasts about 30 minutes. So we'll kind of keep it light today on Openclaw, but definitely get into it. And then we'll finish the show off with some Bitcoin ecosystem stuff, if there is any. And then we'll also hit on the trenches a little bit, right? Maybe some of these coin market cap type of tokens we'll go over. But as always, let's kick it off with the market watch. And like I said, drop your comments in the chat. I'll get to them. I did see yours, Drex. I'm going to respond to that here in a second here. But for the market watch, let's look at some things on the economic calendar that could affect this week's markets, right? So not too much. First of all, today is President's Day, so the markets are closed, the U.S. markets. We're talking about the stock market, right? But you do have like the FX trading that's open, and then you do have like the commodities that are open. Of course, crypto is 24/7. That could change, or that probably will change for the U.S. stock market as they're coming on chain. So It's going to be interesting to see what that looks like in the future. But let's take a quick look here at the economic calendar. Nothing for today, of course, as it is a holiday. Tomorrow, nothing big, nothing that stands out to me. The first, I guess, event from the economic calendar that would make any sense to really affect the markets would be the Fed's January FOMC meeting minutes, right? So maybe they can give some hints on where they want to go here in the next couple months with being aggressive, potentially with like liquidity and rate cuts and stuff like that. But I doubt anything big comes out of that. And then you have, of course, on Thursday, like every Thursday, the initial jobless claims. And then Friday is really the big one, and that is the GDP from Q4 of 2025, right? So we're going to see if, that those were good numbers, right? And how the GDP looks for the US. So that is what we got. So nothing, packed, like super packed for this week for the economic calendar. But let's take a look at Bitcoin and the rest of the markets here. As I mentioned, the stock market is closed. So these numbers are really carried over from Friday. You do have futures that are still open, a bit here. So they are moving a little bit mixed. But then you get into Bitcoin and Ethereum, and Bitcoin's getting kind of beat up here at the moment, pulling back 1.56%. You got Ethereum pulling up 0.39%, 0.51%. Now it just moved again. So this is interesting. You're seeing Bitcoin pull back with Ethereum kind of hanging in there, showing a little bit of strength, right? Not a ton, but just a little bit. And then you got the precious metals getting beat down. Gold is pulled back 1.3%, and you got silver pulling back 1.83% there. So all in all, really, it's Bitcoin and the precious metals that are getting beat up. But you got to remember, today is a holiday, so liquidity is thin, right? It's easy to move prices down if that's what people are trying to do. Market makers trying to maybe liquidate some longs that came in over the weekend or before the weekend. So I wouldn't look too much into today's price action. Right now, if there was some sort of fundamental analysis, some headlines like wars breaking out, that's a totally different story. But as of right now, it's really that thin liquidity that's moving things here, right? So that's what we got for the market pulse. Really not too much with that, except for Bitcoin and Ethereum kind of, Bitcoin's really the one that's moving pretty aggressive. Ethereum's kind of hanging in there, right? So let's hit on that main topic. We're going to get back to that main topic. So what are the two things that Bitcoin must do to finish the week green? Okay. So to finish the week green, first of all, we need a weekly candle that finishes above 68,813. Currently, we're sitting at 67,700, right? But as I mentioned, not a big deal because thin liquidity. I think the next 48 hours are very much like more important, right? They're going to be more impactful for how we end this weekly candle. So that's where we need to get to end the week green, right? So my stance on this is I'm watching the markets for the next 48 hours because I think that's going to be very, very substantial. So the first thing we need to do, though, right, is if you're looking here at this chart that I have pulled up with Bitcoin on the daily time frame, we need to finish a daily candle above the resistance area of 70,500. Okay, so it's not going to happen today, most likely, right? We're pretty far off from that. We're about 3,000 off from that. I mean, it could if things got extremely volatile, like I said, a fundamental analysis headline or something came through, but I don't think that's going to happen. It doesn't need to happen today either, right? As long as it happens before heading into the weekend, I think that's the most important thing. And why is that important? It's important because we've been getting rejected at that area on a daily time frame going back to February 6th, right? So we haven't had any conviction that Bitcoin wants to get to that next level to the upside, right? But if we finish this, a daily candle in the next 6 days above that resistance area, then we can build off of that, right? It gives us confidence. It gives us conviction. So that's the first thing that we need to do is finish a daily candle above that resistance of 70,500. Then we can build off of that. The second thing that we need to do is we need Bitcoin dominance to start to go up, right? If you're looking here on this daily chart, it's been kind of back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Today, it's down. right? And as you could see earlier when I mentioned, ETH and what's up, Poet Babe? I see your comment in there. Put any questions in the abstract chat, guys, that you have. But as I showed you with the market pulse, Ethereum was kind of hanging in there as Bitcoin was pulling back, right? So you can see the effects of the Bitcoin dominance here a bit. And it does seem like there's, a lot of these tokens and some of these tokens, I should say, and alts that institutions are kind of eyeing that are showing some strength, right? Whether that is Layer 0, whether that's Ondo, or some of these tokens that either are strong in the RWA sector or the agentic sector, they are like getting bullish. The institutions and TradFi getting bullish on these type of tokens, right? But they're not picking all across the board. They're really kind of selecting their winners, right? I do see a couple comments here. Let me see what's going on. Drex says, yo, where the F is my man Shizzy? So Drex, I don't know if you missed out, but he decided he wanted to go in another direction. If you follow him on X, you can kind of see his channel there. But glad to have you back on the channel, Drex. It's been a minute. Stan says, what happened to BTC innovation? Is it safe to say that BTC cannot be upgraded? Thanks. That's a tough one, because I do think Bitcoin's blockchain will be upgraded and over time, but carefully, right? Meticulously. It's going to be very intentional of how it happens, because I think there's a lot of stakeholders, and when I say stakeholders, I mean now you have huge institutions that have billions of dollars of Bitcoin, right? And they don't want there to be any type of risk, right? Security risk for the Bitcoin mother chain, so that's, we've kind of talked about that on the channel. I do think innovation continually happens with Bitcoin though, because people want to be able to take advantage of how much, capital liquidity exists being involved with Bitcoin, and they're going to find strategic, safe ways to be able to monetize. I mean, especially with institutions and TradFi here. I know there's a lot of fundamentalists and Bitcoin maximalists that probably are screaming if they're hearing this right now, but it's going to happen over time, in my opinion. And then we got Patapoo who says, sup, Yago B. He also says, buckle up for a rough week. Bear moon prints tomorrow. You have been pretty on point with the bear moon, I have to admit. Hopefully for one final flush to 54K, then we can have a more sustainable, longer term rally. Yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely on the table, right? Anything's possible. I do think that for Bitcoin to kind of break below the 200-day moving average on the weekly chart, though, we probably need, some strong black swan events to kind of pile up. Maybe we don't, though, because this cycle has been very, very different in terms of what makes Bitcoin move and what makes Bitcoin dump, right? But we'll find out soon enough. Again, I want to welcome the TikTok audience here. I am streaming with my green screen behind me, or the green cloth behind you, because I'm trying to stream enough to be able to get the RTMP. So hang tight with me. If you drop a comment in there, I will do my best to get to your questions and comments in there. But welcome to the show. And same thing with Abstract and Zora. Shout out to Zora and Rumble, everybody else. I love all you guys. You guys are awesome. All right, now let's get back to what Bitcoin must do to finish the week green, right? So Bitcoin dominance, we need to start seeing this kind of pick back up. And, for that to happen, I think people need to get excited about Bitcoin, right? And right now, the excitement isn't necessarily there, especially from the institutions and TradFi. So it's might be a tough week, like Patapoo mentioned, right? And but I'm not going to count it out just yet, because the situation of us going to five weekly negative returns, in a row, and this is the week that we're on right now, which would make it the fifth week. And right now we're negative 1.48%. With the price of Bitcoin currently. It's happened 3 times to where we've gone further past 4 in a row, right? We're sitting at 5, but it hasn't been established just yet. So for us to actually finish red this week, it's happened, I want to say 3 times since 2014. So over a 12-year period, it's happened 3 times. Now, it's not that crazy if it happens or whatever, we're in different times and things like that. But I do want to have a little bit more data heading deeper into the week, right? For me to say, okay, I kind of give up on the potential of Bitcoin having a green weekly return this week. I need to see what happens in the next 48, potentially 72 hours. All right. Almond Joy says GM Almond Joy, and Justin says GM. Appreciate you guys. On the X side, if you guys could share the space on the X side, that would help me a ton. X has been really weird with StreamYard and that type of stuff. But all right. Going back here to Bitcoin. So those two things, right? We need Bitcoin to have a daily candle above 70,500, and then we can build off of that. That will give me more confidence that we could finish this week green. And the second one is Bitcoin dominance needs to start to reverse. So those are two things I'm looking at, and I'll be kind of paying attention to that throughout the week, and we'll kind of go over that throughout the week together, right? All right, let's get into some news that's happening across the space. So this is another kind of reason headline that makes me feel like, we are going into this new era of crypto. But this article is by The Block, and it says enabling AI agents to execute non-custodial cross-chain transactions, right? This is exciting. I mean, I really love my experience with Openclaw and this agentic movement and narrative that's happening in crypto. And so this is exciting, but it is changing. I mean, the space is changing. It says cross-chain protocol deBridge has launched a model context protocol server, which it says is designed to let AI agents and developer tools like Claude, Cursor, and Copilot execute swaps, bridging, and multi-step on-chain flows across EVM, which is Ethereum Virtual Machine compatible chains, which are like, Arbitrum, Base, AVAX is EVM compatible, Chronos is EVM compatible, and then it says, and Solana, which is SVM. It says that MCP server provides what deBridge describes as a deterministic execution with quotes designed to execute as intended and MEV aware. So this is probably something that the institutions are getting excited about as well, right? Because they absolutely hate MEV sandwich attacks. They hate MEV front running because they want to have the edge, right? Institutions want to make sure at least that they're not getting, front ran, right? And it says routing optimized for reliability. According to a statement shared with The Block on Monday, users retain custody of their funds throughout the process with execution abstracted behind a single interface that handles wallet orchestration, chain switching, and transaction retries. Functions that the protocol said traditionally creates friction for automated systems. So this is another thing too, is that like when you're using smart contract, a lot of times like you might have like a transaction that failed, and then you have to manually redo it. And some people didn't realize that it failed, or something. They thought like they bought the token, or they purchased the NFT, or they staked their tokens or whatever, but didn't realize that it failed. What these autonomous agents can do is just they will see it and they'll just retry it automatically. So that is, I think that's a big deal. It changes the experience completely. So it basically goes on to talk about how this is going to be like this next level of crypto transactions, right? And most people are starting to already accept this, like I have already, right? That we are, and for crypto, by the way, and Web3, as much as this like changes how people might interact with each other at conferences and even on X, and we're going to get into that here in a bit, in a sense, you've got to think that this is good for crypto overall, because we've lacked a big kind of substance type of narrative, right? It's always been just, meme coins or DeFi, right? And there's these narratives that have passed through that have not sustained. They've died off, whether that's like NFTs and NFTs being used as, file storage for important documents and these type of things. That can be a reality. But first, I think we need big institutions in the world to take the space seriously. And this is something that is going to do that, in my opinion, because now these agents that are extremely popular, even outside of crypto, they're using crypto rails X402 to get paid, right? And so I think that's definitely an exciting aspect of this. So that is what's happening with deBridge. So I'm definitely going to be looking further into this and tracking how this progresses here. All right, so this is something that is definitely caught my attention. It caught my attention from this headline. It caught my attention from my buddies that are in the space that were at Consensus in Hong Kong. But this headline says, "Is the real consensus at Hong Kong?" It was a pun that they used there. 2026, that crypto is finished. And it says below, in this episode of Woo Blockchain AMA, we unpack key takeaways from Hong Kong Consensus and discuss where the crypto industry stands today and where it may be headed. Guests included Colin Wu, and then it goes into the panel shared their candid views on the current state of crypto and their impressions from the conference. With markets sluggish and AI rapidly gaining momentum, sentiment across their industry has clearly shifted. Many participants expressed growing pessimism that crypto's near-term outlook. The so-called consensus seems to have changed as traditional crypto narratives and projects are facing mounting pressure. Right now, it is currently like the markets for crypto are pretty bad. I mean, you got to admit that across the board, the sentiment's bad. We're in all-time fear. So I think it's easy to assume this, right? That, crypto is done completely the way that we knew it. I don't think that's necessarily the case. But AI has really captured the attention of a lot of people in the Web3 and crypto space, right? The buddy I had that was there, he said that he had mixed feelings about being bearish or bullish on crypto from the convention, but he did say everybody's pivoting to AI. But pivoting to AI doesn't mean you're done with crypto. It means that you're, at a crypto conference, you're pivoting to AI as the main narrative, integrating with crypto or what you're building with it, right? And we're seeing a ton of ecosystems, chains, projects, building like agentic type of environments, right? It goes all the way to the Bitcoin ecosystem. From the Bitcoin ecosystem, obviously Base kicked off that narrative with their X402. And then, a lot of the Openclaw stuff was really focused initially on Base, especially with the AI meme tokens that they were launching as well. I don't think that necessarily helped it, but and so now we're seeing other chains and environments have this, and so it's not only a narrative that comes through crypto anymore. This is something that's going to really spread its tentacles out, right? Because it's actually very popular outside of crypto, and that's the thing that I think crypto needed, was something that is mainstream in general, but also you can incorporate it into crypto and Web3 to where it makes sense and it's needed, right? So the payment rails, we talked about that already, right? So it says right here, it continues on in this article, and you can find this on wooblockchain.xyz. It says, beyond the big picture debate, guests also shared some entertaining and even absurd moments from the event. Overall, despite a tough market and shaking confidence, many in the space are still searching for the next direction and haven't given up on crypto just yet. Yeah, and that's the thing. I think there's a lot of people in, whether you cover the space like what I do, or, you're a project builder, that are kind of in their emotions right now because 2025 didn't play out the way that a lot of builders in the broader ecosystem expected it to. So, if you have a little bit of bitterness because alt season didn't come and your project didn't thrive during that, expected time frame of alt season, then it's easier to be negative on that, right? And then, really pump up the new narrative of AI. But I mean, I do believe what's happening with AI is going to be a huge part of Web3, and it's going to work hand in hand. So that is kind of where, we are with what happened with consensus in Hong Kong. Like I said, my buddy that is over there or was over there, he's really straightforward with me too. And he said that he was worried a little bit, but, definitely going to continually build. And that's the biggest part, right? Are they going to continually build out in the Web3 space and just incorporate this new meta into it? I think that's the most important part of it. All right, let's get back to a little bit of price action here with crypto bubbles. All right, let's pull in the Bitcoin chart here on the hour chart. Let's see where maybe Bitcoin wants to head today, even though liquidity is thin, right? It's very, very thin, but we can still get a little gauge of where things want to head to, where they've been kind of pushed towards. We are going to start with Bitcoin on the hour chart like we always do. You can see here that the MACD is on its second bread candle. So we are in the sell pressure session here. The stochastic RSI, the fast line, crossed over the oversold territory about an hour and a half ago, right? So we're kind of just getting here, right? Now, it still looks like we're in the sell pressure session decently, like we're showing some decent strength here until we start to see on the MACD this fast blue line start to curl up. Then we'll probably assume that we're going to have like a sideways with a little bit of downtrend. So no shock if we get to like low 67s, maybe 67.4, around that range for the next 2, 4, 6 hours. Now, if we start to pop up here towards the end of the day, that could lead into a more upward swing for tomorrow. But first, let's see, how long the sell pressure session lasts. And it's definitely still in play right now. And so that's what I'm seeing for the hour chart. Let's take a look at the 4-hour chart here. The 4-hour chart showing some backup conviction for the hour chart that I just talked about. So sell pressure session still going in the 4-hour chart here. So it's still showing strength in the 4-hour chart for Bitcoin. So again, sideways with down. That sounds about where we're probably headed, right? And if it picks up strength, maybe we break down below 67,000. But as of right now, it's kind of showing some medium strength here to the downside. All right, take a quick look at the daily for Bitcoin. Bitcoin's daily is in the green. It's in the buy pressure session, but it's very, very weak. I mean, the second candle looks pretty weak, I would say, right? So doesn't look like we're going to get like a strong push up on the daily chart just yet. Now that could change. We are only in the second daily candle here for the MACD. So let's see what happens there. And remember, this is the time frame that I mentioned that we have to finish. We have to finish, very important. We have to finish the daily candle above 70,500 for us to get any momentum to build up any sustainability to finish this week green, right? As of right now, we have a good distance away from that. So that is what Bitcoin looks like on all 3 time frames. Let's take a look at Ethereum, because Ethereum is up a little bit here. Comparative to Bitcoin, it's actually up in general, I think, or it was at barely 0.25%. But if this is something that actually starts to trend, then could we see a situation to where, Ethereum starts to get a little loosey-goosey here? We talked about the ISM and PMI, like the manufacturing of January numbers came in pretty strong. And whenever that is going to the upside, it was 52.5 for January. When that starts moving to the high 50s, low 60s, alts get a little, risk on gets a little aggressive. So something just to kind of put in the back of your head there, is this just kind of an anomaly for today? One thing I'm going to hit on a headline too is I think some people are rotating a little bit to ETH here. But anyways, looking at the hour chart for Ethereum, we are in buy pressure session. So it's complete opposite of versus Bitcoin, right? So it is weak. It's starting to weak. It's starting to crack a little bit. You went from dark green to that white color, light green, whitish color. The fast line does look like it wants to pop up a little bit here. Let's see if that matches up with the stochastic RSI. We stopped right coming out of being overbought right in the middle of that area at the 51.4 mark. We've kind of stopped, so we didn't continue going down. So that momentum to the downside has halted for Ethereum. So that's a good sign for ETH, right? Now let's see if there's some momentum that can actually build up here, right? Or like I mentioned, is this more of an anomaly situation? Maybe not. And we'll get into some of the headlines in a second to kind of maybe back that a little bit. But let's take a look at the 4 hour for ETH. The 4 hour here is in that sell pressure session for the MACD. It is weakening though. It's starting to crack here. So we could, and it wants to come out of oversold territory as well in stochastic RSI. So interesting situation playing out. I'm not like gonna commit to ETH, jumping up here aggressively or anything like that, but very, very interesting situation playing out with Ethereum. I'll say that, to say the least there. All right. And then on the daily here, it's been in buy pressure for 3 MACD candles. It's pretty weak though. It's pretty weak. I'm not gonna lie. So it's very comparable to what I saw on Bitcoin on the daily. So something to continually look at there. Let's see. Courtney Johnson, what is up? He says government shutdown. Family, we going to 43,000. Was there another announcement for a government shutdown? No. Let me take a look at that. Let me take a look at that. Let's see. Because that's a big deal. Partial shutdown drags. Okay. Is underway. Wow. Here we go again. Okay. Well, there we go. If that happens, then probably we're going to have that, that situation on the negative weekly returns continue. And we get to have a very rare situation continue with those negative weekly returns for Bitcoin. But we'll see. I'm going to get more information on that. But going back to Ethereum here on the daily, like I said, very similar to Bitcoin. The hour and the 4 hour, though, look definitely better than Bitcoin in terms of some trajectory for the next 6 hours to next couple of days, because 4 hour gives us more of a 2 to 3 day forecast there. All right. Let's see what's happening with some liquidation areas too. Going back to real quick of that Bitcoin. Well, let's just take a look at the liquidation areas here. So this is let me reset this. This is the past 24 hours. And I do use CoinGlass for my heat maps. I use mode 2. I feel like it's just the clearest one for me. Right now, big liquidation pocket for longs got annihilated. It looks like here, about 28 million, right? But as of right now, I'm not seeing very much. Now above, there is a pocket that's starting to form at 68.9 that goes up about 40 million in range here of liquidations. And then below, you do see some at 66.955. That start to kind of build up. It's not anything that's really concentrated at this moment. Myself says, yup, we're in a 3-day, day 3. Oh my God. Temporary. Oh, okay. So temporary government shutdown. This is horrible. TSA already not getting paid. Ugh, that's nasty. Okay. Well, that's definitely going to, feed into that thesis of another weekly negative return. Man, that's so crazy because I felt like they just avoided one 2 weeks ago. Didn't the government just avoid another temporary shutdown 2 weeks ago? And now they're in another one. This is just ridiculous. I mean, they know what the markets are going to do. Good thing for the stock market today that, stocks are shut down, because I'm sure they would be getting annihilated today. But welcome back to the show, myself as well. Keep putting your comments in the chat, guys. I appreciate you guys being here on probably your day off. If you guys have your day off today, I hope you're enjoying it. If not, hopefully you're listening in and this show can make time go by faster. I don't know. But yeah, so that's where we are in the liquidations. They're a little bit below that, kind of start at 66.955 for Bitcoin. Above, it's at that 68.930. So that's something to look at. Looks like crypto bubbles here in the top 100. In the top 100, most everything is red, pulling back pretty aggressively here. You got the stable coin. I hate that they named this coin stable coin. I absolutely hate that. Ugh. It is up 25.1% though. Tau is up 1.7%. Tron is up 0.8%. Atom is up 3.8%. You got IP, Story Protocol, up 4.4%. And everything else is pulled back pretty much. Lit is up 1.6%. And then it's about 90% of the top 100 is pulled back though. And the significant pullbacks, you're seeing Kite down 7.1%, Doge down 6.8%, Solana pulling back 4.5% here. Pepe down 4.2%. Pump down 2.5%. Yeah, so majority of everything has pulled back in the alt market. And then the top 200, between 100 and 200, you're seeing some like meme coin looking coins bouncing up here, which no shocker, they're easiest to pump up, especially if they're newer. The Siren token, I don't know if it's a meme token, but it looks like it from the image here. 60 is up 61.8%. HMT up 30% here. Layer 0 taking a gut punch, pulling back 9.3%. I'm bullish on Layer 0 long term because of just how much they are working with like these institutions. And I know some of you guys probably hate institutions and stuff like that, but they're the ones that are kind of, you know, picking some of these winners for alts. And Layer 0 seems to be really closely connected to a lot of them. You got Syrup from Maple up down 7.8%. Luna Classic pulling back 4%. Luna Classic, why are they still in here? Yeah, that's kind of one of those examples that I feel like crypto kind of lose the respect of the masses there with tokens like that, but it is what it is, and the space is changing. Tibber, which I believe is an AI meme situation on Base, is up 4.3% here. Anything else that's sticking out? Frax up 4.8%. Falcon Finance up 5% as well. VVV, is that from Kronos, Courtney Johnson? Oh, Venice token. Okay. Venice token is on the day down 1.8% there. Sitting at 46.7 market cap. $46.7 million market cap there. And if you guys, anybody else has any tokens you want me to check out, just drop them in the chat and I will check them. All right, let's get back to some news. Some news. All right. So Polymarket has been, prediction markets have been like one of the, I don't know if you want to say bright lights of the space, but you know, in terms of volume and attention, they've been one of the winners. I'll say that. So Polymarket, which is decentralized, right? Everything happens on chain, and you have Kalshi, which is centralized, but you can deposit crypto and stuff on there. But Vatlik is starting to worry about predictions markets. This is another article from the block, and it says Polymarket investor Vatlik Buterin says prediction markets need to stop catering to dumb opinions. Well, I mean, there's a lot of those in the space. He goes on, the article goes on to say, Vatlik said he is starting to worry about the state of prediction markets, arguing that the sector's growing reliance in uninformed speculators threatens its long-term viability. In a post on Friday, Buterin called on platforms to pivot from speculative gambling towards AI-powered hedging tools designed around real-world consumer spending. So that's I feel like I see where he's coming from a bit. Like I think he's worried that, you know, predictions markets is going to eventually head towards this extremely degenerate environment of just gambling, almost kind of like how meme coins got, right? But I mean, like the sports betting aspect of prediction markets is huge. I don't think they can get away from that, right? But I think he's worried about something that these predictions platforms have kind of mentioned that they want to head towards, and it is about sentiment and attention markets, right? And that's exactly what meme coins were. They were attention markets. You know, whatever was hot on X that day, someone's going to Pumpfun and they're launching that, and they're gonna, you know, try to run it up to $1 million dump and whatever, right? And then you have 20 copies of that day's narrative, and they've already talked about how they want to head towards attention markets. And maybe Vatlik, being an investor, it doesn't like that, right? I see your cloak coin stand. I'm going to get to that in a second. And then Courtney Johnson says base chat GPT up 100 for the week. Yes. Yeah, I mean, they're probably getting a ton of attention for that. I'm going to look at cloak coin in a second. I want to finish out this article, though, Stan. Okay, so so that's kind of where I feel like what he's worried about, right? And I think rightfully so. I mean, if you go back to 2020, 2021, 2022, Ethereum was Solana. Pepe launched on ETH, right? And you saw a lot of the degeneracy there. And then that rotated to Solana, right? And so maybe he's just worried that that's where predictions markets could be headed. And then people will lose trust, right? But I do think his suggestion might be overdoing it in the opposite direction, right? Saying that, having only, what do you say, agentic or agents basically hedge for market conditions and stuff. That's going to be very, very attractive to institutional traders and institutions in general, so they can hedge. And really, to be honest with you, people that are used to trading in TradFi and they hedge and trade options very disciplined in a disciplined manner, and it's less volatile. I mean, we got to be honest; it's less volatile than it is in the stock market. The stock market is less volatile than it is in crypto. I mean, and you're using like options markets versus leverage, which options, in my opinion, are safer, right? So I get where he's coming from. I think he's trying to make sure that predictions markets don't lose credibility and reputation and that type of thing. But I don't think you can get away from some of that. You're not going to be able to get away from sports betting. You're not going to be able to get away from even like the weather predictions and stuff like that. Now, the attention stuff, I agree. Probably don't go 1,000% into that, because that could maybe taint the overall business model. But you can find this article on the block. I love the block. The block puts out really good information. I try to use it and not just X, because everybody on crypto Twitter uses X, and I want to try to bring some new news to the table here. All right, let's get to Cloak Coin buy Stan's request here. See what Cloak Coin is here. Okay, so it's not in the top 100 or 1,000. Do you know what the ticker is, Stan? Okay, so is it this one that's ranked 1524 and market cap is 2 million, 2.4 million? Pretty degen over here. I think this is the one that you're talking about. Okay, let's see. Let's see if it's up or... Oh, here it is. So let's go to 24 hours. So the 24-hour, it is down 67% for the 24-hour period. But if you look at the all right there, then you see it's up 126%. From the, can't be from that. So this must be like, I don't know, this area here, but it's showing me, maybe I should just do a year. A year is probably better. Wow. It's up 467% on the year. All right. And then Arita says, let's check out Morpheus. All right. Let's check out Morpheus here. Don't be sending over like super degen, like just launched 5 minutes ago type tokens. Because we don't want to check those, do we? Not in this session, at least. We can do that in the trenches. Why is it not letting me? More. Okay. Is it MOR, Arita? Arita wants me to check Morpheus. Unless you're talking about Morpheus.network. There's two of them here. Let me know which one you check out. I clicked on Morpheus.network here, but the 24-hour year-over-year. Okay, Morpheus.network. Okay, yeah, so it is down about 7% on the last 24 hours. Past year, it's been down 87%. So this one's been pretty down. So it's a token on Ethereum. It is a token on Ethereum for sure. On the X side, guys, if you could share this space, I know I've been asking you guys quite a bit. It's just the X and StreamYard has been jacked up. And so it helps me whenever you guys share the space on X. So if you're on X listening in, just give this like stream a share. And give me a follow at OnChain Rev and at YagoBeverse on X if you're not following me already, which most of you guys are, and I appreciate that. All right. Yeah, so this looks like it's down about 87% here. It is a token on Ethereum. And for the day, it is down 6.76% there. All right. Let's get back into some news here. Okay. So this one, hopefully I didn't change this. Okay. So this is interesting because I'm a little bit worried, not worried, but this is a part of the whole thing. I've been telling you guys, like, the space is changing. So Tetsuo, which has 224,000 followers, posted this, which was very interesting. It was about Nikita Beir. Nikita Beir is a executive, I think, for Solana and X. He works for both, so it makes sense that he's kind of in charge of this. But the post says Nikita Beir just confirmed X is rolling out smart Cashtags within weeks. What it does, tap a ticker in any post to see live prices and charts. So it's when you tap that Cashtag on X, it's gonna, you see the chart there, right there on your timeline. Trade stocks and crypto without leaving the app. So that is going to be interesting. Very, competing big time against DEXs, against brokerages as well, if that's the case. Now, I have to imagine that they're not going to be a brokerage. They're probably going to aggregate all of this somehow, right? Which they're going to definitely get the green light from the brokerages and probably the DEXs because it's Elon and X, right? But the thing is that X is the largest platform for crypto, and and it's pretty big for other financial markets as well. And then the last part in this 3 kind of bulleted points that they're making here, it says supports on-chain assets, including smaller cap tokens. So you can get degen here. And it says X says it won't handle execution directly. Okay, so aggregation, just the data layer and links to exchanges. Okay, so sending them there. Meanwhile, X Money, their Visa-backed payment system, is heading to external beta soon. Elon Musk's everything apps vision is getting real. And then that was based off of Nikita Beir's post that says, I genuinely want crypto to proliferate on X, but applications that create incentives to spam, raid, and harass random users is not the way. It meaningfully degrades the experience for millions of people only to enrich a few people. And yes, we are launching a number of features in a couple of weeks, including smart Cashtags, everything that I talked to you about in the other posts. But what he's talking about is these kind of Openclaw has been huge, right? And what people were doing on Openclaw, I mentioned this on the show last week, but a person that's not crypto related, that's just a developer, launches an application via Openclaw. Someone that's in the degen crypto community sees that because they're tracking it. They're tracking who launches what on Openclaw. They immediately tag Clanker and say, Clanker, launch token for this application. That token launches, and then in the instructions, they're also saying send fees to such and such X account, which is the developer that has nothing to do with crypto. So that's part of what Nikita Beir is talking about here. But also, they've kind of shut down some of these social media marketing projects like Cato, right? People, new chains would use Cato. You could do social tasks if you earn points, and the idea is to get airdrop, right? So it seems like X is really trying to clean up a lot of that, but are they doing it so they benefit, most likely, and then get rid of these smaller competitors that are doing it? So something to keep your eye on. Even if the industry changes, though, you just got to find where if you're a builder, if you're a content creator, if you are a trader that's doing classes or whatever, you just got to find where you fit in, right? And you have to adapt. That's the biggest thing, right? Like Bruce Lee said, be like water. You have to flow with the conditions. And I think that's where we're heading for the crypto space, but also X as well. So if you have a presence on X, just know that. All right. So that is that part. And then Nikita Beir's account, he says, we are rolling out more So this is for the automation part. So we're rolling out more detection for automation and spam, and a lot more to come. If a human is not tapping on the screen, this is big, the account and all associated accounts will likely be suspended, even if you're just experimenting, which is so funny because there's this punctuation long line here. And I'm like, bro, it's obvious. Like, I mean, I don't know. Maybe he uses that. Maybe he's just really good at grammar, spelling, punctuation. But like, whenever you have AI write your post, AI uses that pause line every single time. But anyways, he says, while we aim to support legitimate use cases for agents, this will take some time to do properly. For now, we recommend holding off on plugging in your bots. If it's critical, you can use the official API, which costs lots of money. But yeah, so if you are a project that wants your agent to automate your X account, probably not a good idea, especially if you're just kicking off. Because they're going to be looking to make sure that humans are clicking, and they're going to find a way to do that very, very effectively. And then, accounts will be suspended. So that's what's happening. Be ready for these changes, but use them to your benefit. Anybody can go pout in the corner and say, oh man, I used to use X for this, that, and the other. Learn how you can use it efficiently now, and, continually move forward. I think that's the biggest point that I wanted to kind of push forward with that. All right, this one's kind of a little bit, I don't know if it's lighthearted actually, but Kevin O'Leary wins $2.8 million defamation judgment against crypto influencer BitBoy. At this point, I mean, shouldn't people just leave him alone? I feel like he's kind of gone in his corner, but it says that U.S. District Judge Beth Bloom of Southern District of Florida on Thursday entered a $2.8 million default judgment against Ben Armstrong, the crypto content creator formerly known as BitBoy, in a defamation case brought by investor and television personality Kevin O'Leary. The award includes approximately $78,000 in reputational damages, $750,000 for emotional distress, and $2 million in punitive damages. Armstrong did not provide a substantive response throughout the proceeding. That is that's sad. That's sad, but that's why you got to have good people around you, man, to kind of, try to reel you in. But hopefully, the space can move on from stuff like that. All right, let's get to my. And it is crypto related because I'm using it for that. But first and foremost, I highly recommend that you guys go to Medix Media on YouTube and watch the Openclaw tutorial. It's just right there on the front. I'm going to actually drop this in the comments. You can see their channel here, but they are extremely, extremely helpful on how to get started, right? And their way of getting started is very quick, it's very easy. They take you through this process, right? And you end up using Hostinger, right? So the way they do it through a VPS plan. So it's hosted by this company, and they basically give you, the most popular plan is like $7 a month. They give you two vCPU cores, 8 gigabytes of RAM, and then 100 gigabytes of disk space and 8 terabytes bandwidth, right? So that is kind of in that $6.99 a month. But the reason why people should start this way, in my opinion, is because you aren't putting it onto your local machine, and you can get a taste of how it feels and works. So when you're chatting with Openclaw, it's through their hosted system. So it's very simple. They walk you through it. You can add your LLMs to it. You can set up sub agents, whatever you want to do, you can do it. Now, it's not going to be full force Captain America version of it, because, I think if you do anything locally, the agent has full access to your application. So there's risk involved with that, but also extreme productivity, developer, email scheduler, you can get to a point purchasing things, right? But definitely I love the way I started, because the way I started going through Hostinger, it allowed me to get a feel. And I use my terminal. I've built things using vibe coding, right? So I'm familiar with my terminal. I didn't take that specific route, but I did use another device. It wasn't a Mac Mini, but it's just, if you can get to that level from a perspective in terms of you find value in what this can do, I feel like that is the ultimate. You have to get it to a device that can have access to parts of your either terminal or just things that you need it to do, like that's automated, and that's on your machine, really, right? And so that's kind of where I've been. I love it, absolutely love it. I'm trying not to get addicted to it though, because it can definitely take up a lot of your time. And so that's my experience. I kind of stopped there. What I was able to do, I'll tell you that. I've been able to create a team that focuses on content, a team that focuses on user onboarding, a team that focuses on, and this is one team. I'm just talking about different areas of I think it's a total of maybe like 8 sub agents, right? And they have individual tasks, they have individual specialties, right? And depending on what you want to do, but you can do so many things with it. Like, if you want to build an application that is focused on alpha, and it gets all the alpha and it puts it in a Telegram bot for you, and it will market it and all these things and help you build a business with it, you can do that. You can build a trading bot, easy trading bot on Polymarket or on Kalshi as well, right? You can build anything that you can think of, honestly. But there is some tweaks that in my opinion, that you got to do to be efficient in terms of not using up your tokens for your LLMs. I plugged in almost every LLM I have, right? And you have fallbacks as well. So I'm trying to figure out how to approach this from like a tutorial perspective, but I'm most likely going to create like a recording tutorial for this and how I use it for Web3. But I'll let you guys know ahead of time. Myself says, first, Stan says, will the channel enter the ring with BitBoy so he can get back on his feet? I don't know. Depends on how much they pay me. But man, I don't know. He's been through a lot, dude. And when he fought, he looked like he was almost dying. He had to use like an asthma inhaler. But he did have a draw against Ansem, which was, I don't know, man. That seemed like it was rigged. I just felt like, how did Ansem not win that fight? He's 6'5". I don't know. And then myself says, you using a Mac Mini? Nope. And he says, oh, VPS. Yeah, definitely how I started was VPS. That is how I started. I recommend that for my experience. That's from my experience, though. So, someone else might say, nah, skip the VPS. But, you just got to be really comfortable with using a terminal, using, just kind of, and I'm not a developer, by the way. I use Claude to do things. But AI is at that point to where you can, I've done little, like in the past, I've done like very like easy simplistic languages like CSS and of course HTML. Everybody did that, right? But I actually feel like I understand when I see Python now because of Claude though, right? So, but if you haven't messed with that stuff, VPS, definitely the starting point. Myself, I think that is the best option if you want to do it locally. The best option. Just don't make sure there's nothing on there that you are, or he basically said, I want to install it on my old laptop, right? Just make sure there's nothing on there that's sensitive and that type of stuff, right? And also the newest versions of Openclaw, 2.16, it's basically dates. They do it by dates. They're putting in fail-safe situations, security situations, and stuff like that. They're making it better. But this is an arms race now. One of the headlines that I didn't put in here, but the creator of Openclaw just signed on with OpenAI, ChatGPT, right? And so I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing though, because I feel like Sam Altman is all about trying to probably monetize it or get like all the data, people's stuff that they're creating. So yeah, we'll see how that plays out. But Anthropic didn't jump on that, by the way, which completely blew my mind because they were open Claude. It was like so Claude, like so much. The name Claude was so intertwined with Openclaw, like all over X. But smart by Sam Altman to kind of jump on that and probably, sign a quick deal for that to happen. But yeah, so I love it. I'm going to keep building with it, and hopefully I have something interesting to show you guys one day. All right, what else do we got here? Okay, we're going to go a little bit over today, but that's okay. It's President's Day. We ain't got too much to dive into, but we got some stuff, right? All right, this one right here. Okay, so Hardvard reduced IBIT holdings in Q4 by 21%, but added $86.8 million of iShares Ethereum Trust. So Harvard University has sold down some of their Bitcoin holdings and bought Ethereum holdings, right? It says Bitcoin still remains the largest disclosed position that they have, but that's maybe another sign here that like some of it's being rotated a little bit, right? We'll see if we see more and more of these type of headlines. Okay, next here, CZ, the final hurdle for crypto payments isn't speed or fees, it's privacy. So again, like you're seeing, I feel like he was saying that like, being transparent is the best thing. Like blockchain is so transparent, it's the best thing for people and, society and institutions. I feel like this is definitely the kind of influence of TradFi here, right? It's, for him to kind of say this, it goes against what he's always said, I felt like. But he's saying the final hurdle for crypto payments isn't speed. So maybe that is a bit of a true statement, because he's saying the hurdle for crypto payments rails. But is it good? We'll find out. We do know, institutions like JP Morgan, they're using privacy chains, they're using privacy protocols for sure. And we're going to see Citadel, Citadel Securities, they're going to be doing that. These are, Citadel's broker, market maker, all types of conflict of interest in TradFi. They're not going to be showing what they're doing. Right. So I think this is going to be, and they're going to push this as like, you guys as citizens of the world or whatever should have the right to have privacy here. Stan says CZ's pumping coins. Is he pumping coins anymore? I know he did in October, November with his chain. But anyways, yeah, I think this is, we'll see if it's a good thing. We'll see what this comes, what comes of this. But I think, this is probably going to push the payment processing companies forward and adopt. That's the big thing. And I think I think a lot of these figures, CZ, Brian Armstrong, the Gemini twins, what's their name? Winkle Voss or whatever their last name is, twins and stuff. We pretty much lost those guys. Like, I don't know if we ever had them, honestly, because they were worth billions of dollars not long ago. I mean, quite a bit of time ago. Not, it's not like they just got rich, but now that these countries are adopting crypto and Web3, now they're in the same club. They're in the same club. I mean, it is what it is. That's what it is. That is what it is, guys. That is what it is. All right. Okay, so this is a cool thing that Woo Blockchain has. It's actually weekly project updates. So if you guys ever just want a quick, project updates, you can go to blockchain or wooblockchain.xyz. They have a section on their website called weekly project update. So the first one right here is Layer 0 unveils zero public blockchain solution with Citadel. I just talked about them. ICE, not that ICE, and Kathy Wood participating. It says Layer 0 has announced a new Layer 1 blockchain named Zero, designed to address scalability and privacy challenges. Ooh, we just talked about that. They're giving them what they want for Wall Street's adoption of blockchain technology. The chain claims to support approximately 2 million transactions per second, TPS. Okay, that was always been a big deal. And it says with transaction costs below 1 cent. Okay, that's going to make them happy. Citadel and this ICE, which is Intercontinental Exchange. I'm not familiar with them. I got to look them up. And Kathy Wood are participating as investors, partners, and advisors. Citadel has invested via tokens. Amount undisclosed. And Tether has also announced its participation. All right, this is where the giants start to come together, guys. The giants come together. The Citadels of the world, the Ken Griffins, they say how the game goes. And they have Layer 0 now. So, a couple other things that's interesting on here. Pumpfun founder Elon company is hiring engineers with base annual salaries up to $1.5 million. What? Pumpfun founder Elon stated on X that the company is hiring software engineers. So people were talking about how software engineers are going out of that position is becoming less and less in demand. I do agree, but I think they're gonna have like really talented software engineers that head like these agentic environments and ecosystems and make sure that everything's going well. I think that's probably something like this. It says data scientists and machine learning engineers aiming to build a global consumer-facing crypto product, brand, and promote the tokenization of early high potential ideas. He said the base annual salary for the position is approximately $300,000 to $1.5 million, with additional pump token incentives worth $75,000 to $500,000. If you're a pump token holder, just know that they're going to be giving bonuses to some of these software engineers and data scientists in pump token. What do you think they're going to do with them? I don't know. Do you think they would sell them right away? Or do you think they would hold them kind of like Microsoft stock? You have a lot of these secretaries and these like landscaping employees from somebody from Zora in here? From Microsoft that held onto the stock and became millionaires, right? So I don't know. It's going to be interesting though. And this is the last one I'll hit on because I'm not going to go over every single one. You guys can check out wooblockchain.xyz and find this. But it says over 20,000 AI agents deployed on blockchains, including Ethereum, BNB chain, and Base. It says more than 2 weeks after the launch of ERC 8004, over 20,000 AI agents have been deployed on chains, including Ethereum. We already went over that. The top 5 AI agents ranked by score, popularity, and activity are James, Captain Daki, Rick, Monera AI, and Core Focus. Yeah, so I feel like whoever takes advantage of this system, the ERC 8004, and for those that don't know what ERC 8004 is, it's a reputation type system on Ethereum for AI agents. It's a smart contract that updates, basically their reputation. And I think the AI agents that take advantage of this initially are going to make out like a bandit, because all they have to do is just upkeep their reputation, and then institutions will use them for services. Retail, probably they're going to be expensive because if they have that kind of reputation at that, in the beginning, over time, it's going to get better and better. Their value is going to be more and more. This is something to pay attention to, though. Pay attention to this. Keep looking at the top 20. Just I don't know. And I'm sure they don't have coins because they probably don't want that association at this point. But, how are people going to be able to invest in these agents that are in the top 10 reputation in ERC 8004, which is the biggest reputation smart contract process in our space? And we don't even know what it's really going to all entail, but we just know who are the top right now. That's pretty crazy. All right. That is going to wrap up the news there. And let me check real quick and see, because I do have Bitcoin ecosystem people in here. I'm one of them, by the way. but I want to see if there's anything in here that's worth taking a look-see at. I'll refresh this. Honestly, the entire markets are down, but I love Bitcoin ecosystem assets. I love ordinals. I love runes and BRC20s, by the way. I love them both. The other ones, I feel like they have work to do. The DMT guys, they're definitely working on something good with that. But outside of those three, I feel like it's going to be tough. But some stuff that looks dirt cheap, Node Monks, $1,500 floor. Like below 1,000, I got to buy like probably 4 of these. 4, maybe 2, and then if it keeps going down, you got Puppets at $644, and you got Natcats, DMT guys, at right under 200. I mean, the volume's not huge on a lot of these right now, but when the time comes when these assets end up rebounding, I think it's going to be, people are going to look back and kick themselves whenever they're this cheap, because they are extremely cheap at this moment. The Node Monk I was talking about, for the people listening in on TikTok and Abstract and Zora, these were at $51,000 floors, right? And if you're not in the Bitcoin ecosystem, you don't know why and all these things. It's because the way that Bitcoin ordinals work is they have like a history of assets, ordinals, or just ordinals really, to where the inscription number shows how old they are. So right now we're on inscription number 100 and something million. The Node Monks, I think, come in at like 64,000, and so it's a collector's type of market that I say will because I believe it will explode at some point, and then you're going down 10, 20, 30 years down the road, and it's going to be like collecting old cards and these things. And so it's really cool. You can self-custody them and all that stuff as well. PJNZ in the house. He says, hello, sir. Great to catch you live again. Great to have you back, sir. It's been a minute. Hope you come back, and of course, if you have the time and all that stuff. But it's all about getting value from these lives. That's been my number one focus since kind of restructuring and shaking up the brand and all that stuff. But glad to have you back, PJNZ, peanut butter jelly New Zealand is what that stands for. But glad to have you back, sir. Back to so not much going on here with the ordinals. The runes, you are seeing Dog Go to the Moon below $100 million, it's at 95.6 million. Still bullish on that. And then you got Billy at 2 million, bullish on Billy as well. And then Magic Internet Money. For the audience that's just listening in, though, this is a high risk area, meme coins, but because they're on Bitcoin, I love them, right? So that's what I'm looking at. And then you can go to Best in Slot to look at the BRC20s, because I like BRC20s as well. Ordi, I think, is going to have a strong bounce back. It's BRC20s are the tokens on Bitcoin that are more for the Eastern community, though. I feel like they're more marketed towards them. But Ordi, huge, sitting at $56 million market cap. And then Sats, those are the two biggest ones. Where's Sats at? Sats is sitting at 20 million. Oh, so it's getting a little bit cheaper. So those are the two biggest ones. And this Nutkin, this new Nutkin token is at 4 million. I guess they're getting bullish. The Chinese and Eastern are getting bullish on Nutkin here, but do your own research on all those stuff. I always want to hit on the Bitcoin ecosystem just because that's what made us, man. Or made the chain, or made the brand and all that stuff. And I have so much I don't know, just thankfulness, inside towards the Bitcoin ecosystem. And I felt like I didn't show a lot of that this past year, but definitely doing it now. Outside of that, guys, I think that wraps up the show. I hope you guys enjoy your President's Day if you have it off. If you don't, hopefully the show you were listening to and it helped time go by. But I appreciate each and every one of you guys. If you guys wouldn't mind heading over to merlinchain.io, it is one of my partners here. If you can go over there and check out what they have to offer for staking, you can see that they offer Bitcoin, staking Bitcoin to earn more Bitcoin. It is a 3-month lockup. You get paid out in Bitcoin. They try to shoot for between 8 and 21% APR. It doesn't always hit that way, but like I said, 3-month lockup period, you get paid out in Bitcoin. So you can check that out. And there's 2 options for the Merlin chain token as well, which they have a token that's listed on Kraken, Spot, and Perps, as well as Coinbase Perps. There's a flexible day-to-day option, which you get 15% APR. You can claim your rewards every single day. You can compound interest that if you want, do whatever you want with it, but you can claim them every single day. And then also it is, if you do want to withdraw on the day-to-day flexible one, there's a 7-day cooldown period. So just know that. The bonded one is a 6-month lockup period. You get 45% APR. Go check them out. The founder is awesome. His name's Jeff. He used to come on the show quite a bit. He's been pretty busy right now. It's Chinese New Year as well. And so, but you can check them out. And then also you can go to onchainrevolution.io, which is my website for the channel. You can see every morning I post kind of a market recap of what's happening with Bitcoin. And then if you're interested in getting a NordVPN, you can get a hefty discount by using this link here, as well as the Ledger. And I'm redoing the website. So I'm trying to get it more towards like other type of articles as well, but appreciate all y'all's help. And don't forget to subscribe and like whatever platform you're on. Hopefully you like my content. I love you guys. You guys are awesome. Without you guys, couldn't do the show for sure. Appreciate it. And until tomorrow, peace.